So I'm pretty sure everybody has a handful of mods they absolutely need to have installed if they're going to be playing. Of course, this varies from person to person. Some people highly value immersion, others combat, some are plain Jane, and you have those that are, well, let's just say that they are sussy bakas. You get what I'm trying to get at. There are mods out there for almost everyone. However, in this video, I'll be sharing mods, old and new, that I personally cannot play without. Also, sorry in advance if I sound a little off. I'm a little sick at the moment. But okie dokie, let's not diddle daddle any longer, and let's get into it.
Skyrim. Get up.
To begin with, there are many mods, probably hundreds that I can't play without. Notably mods that deal with stability, so bug fixes, crash fixes, optimization, etc. So if you're looking for these kinds of mods, I implore you to check out my stability guide. Seriously consider watching it, especially if you're new to modding, because this guide will save you hours and hours of frustration. But alright, stability mods aside, I went through my mod list picking out mods I can't play without. For obvious reasons, I can't list all of these mods in a single video, as a video would probably be bigger than your mother. So I'll be making this a series, and I'll be sharing a few mods per episode. Just like I said earlier, everybody has a personal preference for different kinds of mods. So, to save you some time, I'll be grouping these mods into categories. So please glance over the sections in this video if you're only interested in certain categories. Alright, now that all the degenerates have clicked off the video after noticing there's not a not safe for work category, I'll be going through combat mods with you lot. A lot of you might have seen my modern combat guide video I did a while back. However, some time has passed since I released that guide, and there have been quite a lot of updates, so expect another fully fledged combat guide in the near future. But for now, let me go through some mods that will help you spice your combat up. Some of you might know AMCO, Arena Movement Modern Combat Overhaul. I've showcased this mod before on this channel, but I will summarize it briefly for those who haven't heard of it. It's a mod for masochists. Let me explain in more detail. You're essentially reducing your own movement speed when you have weapons unsheathed. Instead of being able to run passively when wielding a weapon, your passive speed will be the same that of walking. You can still sprint in combat, but of course this consumes stamina. This mod isn't for everyone, as it drastically changes how combat feels. Positioning becomes extremely important, because you can't just run out of a bad spot like you used to. Dodge mods also start to become essential, as you're able to avoid getting hit or move when you really need to. The intensity of combat is amplified as a result of these tweaks, because now there are many variables you have to consider during a fight, and you're going to be punished if you don't plan ahead. So now you can understand why this mod is for masochists. Souls enthusiasts. But hey, if you like a challenge, or you're just feeling that combat has been too easy for you lately, consider trying this one out. I'm a big advocate for increasing difficulty mechanically, rather than just making all enemies damage sponges. Seriously, why do some game developers do this? It's migraine inducing and sucks all life out of the game. I'm looking at you, Bethesda. Recently, AMCO has been updated to version 2, and comes with some big improvements. In the past version of AMCO, movement speed was tweaked universally. However, in this update, when you're wielding a weapon, you won't be slowed down outside of combat. You'll only be slower during fights, which is a pretty good quality of life feature in my opinion. In addition to this, movement speeds have been tweaked to ensure a more enjoyable experience. This is especially noticeable when fighting groups of enemies, as now enemies move slower than the player does moving backwards. This helps to ensure you're not going to be absolutely destroyed by a group of enemies, like you would in the first version of AMCO. Like I said earlier, dodge mods start becoming essential if you're running AMCO or other combat mods like SkySA. Currently, I use DMCO as my dodge mod, Dodge Modern Combat Overhaul. Although you might want to use either the Ultimate Dodge mod or the new rebuilt TK Dodge RE if you want support for first-person dodging and NPC dodging AI, as DMCO currently doesn't have these features. However, I never really play the game in first person, and I actually prefer NPCs not being able to dodge. So I instead use DMCO over other dodge mods because in my opinion, DMCO's animations are way better. It's also got actual input detection, so you don't have to worry about your character going off in directions you told them not to go in. And furthermore, it comes with an elegant dodge toggle system. You can perform a single input for a step dodge, and a double input for a rolling dodge. You can also dodge up to 8 directions, assign the hotkey and stamina consumption for dodging through its MCM, and it's very responsive. So if you're currently using TK Dodge RE or the Ultimate Dodge mod, consider trying out DMCO if you don't mind losing those features I mentioned earlier. When it comes to leveling, I never really enjoyed how this was done in vanilla Skyrim. There's a massive link between your skills and your character's level, and this can cause many issues as Skyrim was designed to have level scaling. Let's say you invested a lot of time into leveling non-combat skills, and put perk points into these trees early on in your playthrough. You gain some levels, but so do your enemies, and now you're at a significant disadvantage when fighting said enemies. So now you can start to see the gaps in this design. Furthermore, this kind of leveling system isn't very immersive. I don't know about you guys, but I want to get experience through exploration and completing quests, and not from doing this.
All we're doing is hitting a greybeard's bottom. We just hit it. We are smacking a greybeard's bum. We are poking him up the arse. And our level is just going up.
Thankfully, the mod Experience completely overhauls the leveling system, so now your source of experience won't be from advancing skills. Instead, you're rewarded experience for completing quests, exploration, clearing locations, and reading books. I felt a lot more motivated to go out and explore as a result of these changes, and it felt a lot more immersive too. Experience has also been very well implemented. For example, you won't just be given the same amount of experience for completing every quest. Quests from the main story or DLC will grant you significantly more experience than, let's say, a simple side quest. This sentiment also carries over to clearing locations, and so clearing a massive dungeon will obviously grant you more experience than a simple bandit camp. Experience implements a skill level cap depending on your character's level, so don't expect your character to be able to master a skill when they're at a low level. I've had experience for years, and I didn't even notice there was a cap here until I was doing my research. So when playing normally, you'll likely never experience this. Get it? But it helps to prevent being overpowered early on, and is a nice way of balancing the game out in my opinion. Experience is also very easy to install. There is no setup required other than having SKSE, and I really appreciate how this mod is compatible with most mods out there. Experience is also highly configurable. You can tweak the experience values gained from certain activities or outright disable some if you wish to. For me personally, I didn't enjoy gaining experience from reading books, so I decided to disable this. I'd also like to mention that there is an additional option to gain experience from killing enemies. By default, this is disabled, but I enabled this as I thought it was a pretty neat feature. Killing higher leveled enemies yields more experience, but you'll receive less experience if you're fighting with followers. So there is quite a lot of balancing implemented here and there. Overall, Experience is a great mod that I highly advise everyone to install, or at the very least, try out. Body shapes aren't very diverse in Skyrim. There's a value between 0 and 100 that everybody falls into, including the player, 0 being the skinniest and 100 being the thickest. But of course, this leaves a lot to be desired. It's not very immersive if everyone shares the same body type. So let's change this with O Body. Some of you may have heard of this before, as I have created a guide for it. Essentially, this mod allows you to randomly distribute body slide presets to all NPCs and your own character. The best part is you can even change presets on the fly. This allows you to do things that were never possible before, like testing dozens of body slide presets at a time without having to close, build in body slide, and relaunch the game hundreds of times. And using this powerful technology, you can also turn Nazim into a fat oaf. However, before, O-Body required you to have OSTIM installed, which many of you may know is, well, an adult sex mod. Understandably, not everybody wants to install a sex mod just to get diverse bodies. But thankfully, an add-on has been released recently that removes the need for OSTIM as a requirement to have O-Body. So if this was holding you back before, well, now's your chance to try it out. O-Body does take some knowledge and setup to get it up and running, but the results speak for themselves. The random distribution of body types really helps to bring a sense of uniqueness to NPCs. If done correctly, no NPC in the game will look the same, and this is why I rank O-Body as a must-have mod, especially for those looking to really bump their immersion up. If you're interested in this mod and would like to know more as well as how to use it, I'll link my O-Body guide for you to watch. Let's talk about wood. You see it all the time. When exploring, questing, indoors, outdoors, you see wood a lot. And if you're like me, then you've likely tried a dozen mods trying to improve the look of your wood. But you're never really satisfied, are you? But that changes now. Here's Veidugald Trees. Veidugald implements 278 new tree models to replace vanilla trees. and is by far the best tree mod I've seen to date. Forests actually feel like forests, and with the extra hand-placed trees add-on for Veidugald, I guarantee you'll be blown away when exploring the wilds. It's really surprising how quickly you can improve the atmosphere of the game just by replacing the trees. With Veidugald installed, my game doesn't even look like Skyrim anymore. It adds a ton of extra trees that match the biomes they're in, and for a mod so simple, it's surprisingly effective in increasing immersion. Perhaps it's how different all the tree models are. When I have this installed, it doesn't feel like trees repeat themselves like they do in vanilla Skyrim. And because of this, forests feel more alive and lively. The trees also have a nice vibrant color to them, but still have very balanced hues, so they still feel realistic. Also, Veidugald doesn't seem to have a super large performance hit like other tree mods do. You can still expect to lose around 2 to 3 FPS, but for that cost, I seriously recommend you guys to check it out. With less than 5,000 downloads, this mod is incredibly underrated, and it's a true hidden gem. Skyrim's visual enchantment effects are pretty cool, but what if they were better? I mean, you're going to be staring at enchanted weapons for quite a bit during your whole playthrough, so why not pimp it up? Here's a neat little mod to do just that. I present to you Visual Animated Enchants. This mod replaces and adds different visual effects for enchanted weapons. There's a whole bunch of custom effects that really help to give enchantments a unique look. There's little details here and there that you might notice, such as the Banished Daedra enchantment having Daedric symbols, or the Fear enchantment having screaming ghosts. In addition to this, certain special weapons like Dawnbreaker, the Ebony Blade, and Volendrung also come with their own custom effects. The mod is purely visual, and the enchantments themselves aren't touched. These effects are pretty wild, and is what I picture in my head when I think of enchanted weapons. Currently only bows and melee weapons are altered, so you won't be seeing these enchants on staves or armors. But overall, the author did a pretty good job here, and really nailed it in my opinion. Alright, POV, you've got a new mod list set up, and you decide you want to start a new playthrough to try it out. So you start a new game, but then you suddenly realize you've got around 100 mods that need to be configured in the MCM before you can start.
Sir, are you fine?
Me? Fine? Of course I'm not fine! I've just begun this playthrough and I've over 100 MCMs to configure! How could you possibly understand my pain, you piece of shit! I've got to set up when and cold, true directional movement and Impersecular combat. And don't get me started on setting up injury percentages for Wildcat. Oh, why didn't the Reddit guide tell me anything about foe mods or compatibilities? I don't understand what I'm doing. Help me, please.
Don't let this be you. To solve this problem, install MCM Recorder. With MCM Recorder, you're able to potentially save yourself hours of setting up MCMs. Just like the name implies, MCM Recorder will record you setting up MCMs. With this installed, simply go to MCM Recorder's MCM, begin a recording, name it, and now you can go through all your MCM settings you wish to record. Once you're done, end the recording, and voila, you're good to go. Now, if you create a new character, you can simply play back the recordings you've saved to apply all of the MCM settings you've had before, so you won't have to spend an eternity setting up these damn menus anymore. And while you're at it, why not install Menu Made? With this mod, you're able to hide specific mods from the MCM. Super useful if you've got a lot of MCM mods and you want to keep things less cluttered. Because if you've already set up an MCM and you know you're not going to be touching it anymore during your playthrough, then it's a good practice to go ahead and hide it. Or you could also use Menu Made to save yourself embarrassment from menus you don't want your friends to see. Hey, I ain't judging you having schlongs of Skyrim installed. You do you, champ. That's the end of the video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Also, consider supporting the channel on Patreon. I really appreciate you guys. You're the ones who make it possible for me to do what I'm doing. Alright, take care lads and lasses, and see you next time.